Child labor has been an ongoing problem in society, a problem that not many people are fully aware of. Sadly, throughout human history, children have been an important part of the labor force. In the 19th century, this became a problem due to industrialization. Children were exposed to dangerous working conditions and not protected by any laws whatsoever. A child with a factory job might work 12 to 18 hours a day, 6 days a week to earn a dollar. By 1810, about 2 million school-age children were working 50 to 70 hours a week. Many children began working before the age of 7, tending machines in spinning mills or hauling heavy loads. Employers saw a huge benefit of using child workers. Children were smaller and more accessible in the factories. They could perform functions that would be more difficult for adults. However, it was more difficult for children to unionize and employers could pay them lower wages. Between 1902 through 1905, reformers were committed to changing the lives of child laborers. It wasn't until the Great Depression that a change occurred. With so many people out of work, people wanted more jobs for adult workers. Education was an important reason to put an end to child labor. Reformers made it a case that young adolescents need to be educated in a democracy in order to perform their civic duty.
Child labor in the United States has been banned with the Fair Labor Standards Act. It restricts young children from working hazardous jobs and limits hours on children under the age of 16. These laws are solely based on age, as 18-year-olds can work unlimited hours in subpar conditions. But this is just causing companies to outsource to other countries who have no choice but to enter their children into the workforce. 53% of all child labor is found in Asia, and 30% is found in sub-Saharan Africa. With the little laws that are actually being placed, big companies still found a loophole. They care more about making money than these kids' future, that they outsource to other countries where the children are forced to work to support their families. 1 in every 6 children is involved in child labor. And even worse, more than 179,302 children were sold as slaves so far this year. It's only March. Adding to that, 22,000 children die in work-related accidents each year. The ones who don't die still don't get a childhood, though. No, instead they spend every minute working for less than 20 cents per day. With 20 cents in America, you can't buy much more than a banana or a piece of candy. According to the International Labor Organization, there are over 21 million victims of forced labor. There are so many products around the world that are produced with forced child labor. Just a few are bricks, cotton, and garments in countries such as Argentina and Afghanistan. On top of that, only 1 out of 5 children actually get paid for their work. The United States is the only nation that has not yet ratified the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child, which serves to protect children's rights through governmental action. The American laws that are in place don't even include agricultural jobs, and this is where most child labor occurs. Federal regulations were almost passed in 2011 to restrict the age of children allowed to work on tobacco farms, but the regulations were withdrawn because of the influence of big agriculture. Children are not protected from dangerous machinery, and there is no minimum age. Health effects that go along with child labor everywhere are disturbing. Children have different bodies than adults, and they have higher chemical absorption rates. Just some effects are unhealthy development of organs and greater risks of hearing loss. 2.7 million years of healthy life are lost each year. Besides physical effects, there are also psychosocial effects as well. Long hours of work every single day can seriously harm a child's social and economical development.
America, known as the land of opportunity. However, no one knows the dark side. Officials estimate that more than 150,000 children work illegally on U.S. farms. The law dictates that one cannot buy tobacco until the age of 18, but children throughout the Southeast, where 90% of the tobacco is grown, in North Carolina, Kentucky, Tennessee, and Virginia, work legally on tobacco farms starting at very young ages such as 11-year-olds. We interviewed with a couple of the kids that worked on these farms. This is their story.
Sometimes last year they sprayed beside us while we were working in tobacco fields, and that's when I got sick. When they spray, you can tell the chemical is very, 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 very strong. I couldn't work at all. I couldn't even stand. I was just laying in the bed.
Not many people know that child labor is alive in our country, but people do not know that so many U.S. companies outsource as well. The greed for a profit causes the innocence of other children. We traveled to the Congo where the evils of outsourcing is alive. The children there pay cobalt for the batteries of our smartphones. Companies such as Apple, Samsung, and Microsoft, which is to name a few examples, use these child laborers. According to a study concerning child labor in the Congo in 2016 produced by Amnesty International, children as young as 7 worked in the mines under intense weather conditions and went through beatings by bosses. They carry back-breaking loads and descend into mines that frequently collapse and work with no protective equipment. In addition to work long hours, they are paid $1 to $2 a day. UNICEF has estimated that there are 40,000 children in the Congo living under forced labor conditions.
Why the focus on hazardous work this year? It's because that we found that this tends to be an ignored area in regard to policies and action. And there are such large numbers of children working in hazardous work. So we produced this report to provide some clarity and some understanding. What are we talking about when we speak of children in hazardous work? The report sets out a number of sectors. So, for example, we know that there are many children working in areas such as crop agriculture, fishing, construction, quarrying, manufacturing. We even take a look at those working on the street, the so-called street children, and those in the informal activities. And we specify those different risks associated with those activities and the health consequences. On this World Day Against Child Labor, in focusing on hazardous work, we are making a call to action. We are first and foremost, again, reminding the urgency of removing all of the youngest children, those 14 and under, out of any forms of child labor and getting them into school. Secondly, we are calling on all those who have anything to do with the realm of promoting occupational safety and health to take a look at those children, those young persons, and the specific risks associated with those younger age groups, to make sure that laws and regulations have been put in place to eliminate child labor and to promote occupational safety and health systems, and to establish policies and regulations and enforcement mechanisms that work. In particular, we make a specific call for all countries to adopt hazardous work lists. Those are the lists where the most hazardous forms of work, the most hazardous types of work and substances are listed. 108 countries already have these lists. 40 some are in process. We believe that everyone has a role to play. The government officials, the trade unions, the employers' organizations, business themselves, communities, and last but not least, of course, parents themselves. They all need to be informed and they all need to play their part so that we can work towards achieving the success of eliminating the worst forms of child labor.
Yeah. Generally 16 to 18 hours, and they get paid no more than 20 cents a day normally. Yeah. Does knowing these facts change your views of will you think twice before going into H&M again?
I just happened to need to buy and exchange some pants. I don't know something. I do my online shopping. I don't know about this guy. It's true, yeah.
Yeah, it's true. It is, yeah, trust me.
Don't buy from them. You just cut them off. Like Old Navy or whatever.
Exactly.
They will learn less.
Like boycott.
There's so many people looking for jobs. Like, just making sure that we're putting ourselves in places to make jobs for those people. We don't have to use children.
Our policy calls for the creation of a bill. One of the requirements in the bill will be to establish a minimum family income. This can be made possible from union and organization funds as well as company funds, which will be explained in depth a little later. Poverty is one of the leading causes to this epidemic, so by increasing the amount of income a family can financially live off of, parents would stop feeling the need to pull their children out of school to work instead. The majority of child laborers are subjected to those long hours in order to make the money their family doesn't have. A raised minimal family income will erase the need for children to work, allowing them to be enrolled in school instead. A proper education is one of the key solutions to eradicating child labor. School shapes their brain for the future, allowing the younger generation to craft and test their skills better than they could in any coal mine or factory. A proper education means a brighter, more equipped generation, which can only benefit the economy compared to the cheap labor business owners are making from hiring child workers. Many people have heard of the issue, yet they don't take any initiative to stop or act out against it. The buyers are the ones with the money. By purchasing these goods, we are indirectly adding more currency that fuels the funds of child labor. People need to know the backstory behind the merchandise they are purchasing. One way to get the public's attention is to have influential people in this day and age, for instance celebrities, endorsing child labor awareness organizations like the International Labor Organization, National Child Labor Committee, or the National Consumers League. One of the biggest contributors to child labor is the fact that most companies who use it just disregard the laws preventing it. For instance, the Fair Labor Standards Act tries to limit but does not enforce the hours a child under 16 should be allowed to work, but employers ignore the statement as they overwork their young laborers. One of the main reasons most businesses get away with this is because it is too hard to count how many children are enrolled in school and there not being enough manpower at each child labor location to control it. There are too many loopholes involved, and most manufacturers get away with hiring underage children for a cheaper price than adult employees. Our policy plans to place many limitations on the barrierless global outsourcing, closing these loopholes permanently. For one, if anyone does break the laws set in place, then there will be a hefty fine to pay for their enforcement of cheap labor. Other than being fined, the business owners may be tried by jury and sentenced to jail time depending on the degree of their offense. In this case, it concerns how many children they have employed, the work hours they subject them to, how much the children get paid, and the working conditions they are provided with. These will make sure the companies think twice before hiring children as a quick fix to spend less and earn more revenue. Our bill will also call for worldwide universal work requirements. This is a way to further avoid any arising problems stemming from this epidemic for every child laborer that works either in the U.S. or has connections with us internationally. These requirements will undoubtedly include raising the legal minimum age to work, keeping factory workers in a safe, well-ventilated environment, and shortening their workdays. The maximum amount of hours each person works will depend on their age and financial situation.
So what can we do as students to create awareness? We can buy certain labels that state that child labor was not used in the process. We can contact retail stores, manufacturers, and importers and ask kindly them questions about the origins of their products. We can buy fair trade and sweatshop-free products whenever possible. Buy used when you can, or borrow, share, or trade or make it yourself. Contact local, regional, and national legislators and ask them to pass laws that ensure no products in the city, state, or country are made with child labor, and encourage them to adopt codes of conduct, which include concern for humane, sustainable, or just practices. Write letters to the heads of countries that permit any form of child slavery and ask them to strengthen or enforce laws and to increase educational opportunities for children and humane, sustainable businesses, opportunities for adults. Educate the public on child labor.
There can be no keener revelation of a society's soul than the way in which it treats its children.
iChange child labor.
iChange child labor.
iChange child labor.
iChange child labor.